Hello, and welcome to the Discovering Your Heart podcast with myself, Bianca Kempe, your host. What does it mean to live from the heart? What does it truly mean to listen to the wise whispers from within? And how can you begin to make the shift back from the head to the heart? The Discovering Your Heart podcast explores the various heroes' journeys of discovering and connecting back to one's own heart, including the challenges, ups, downs, magical synchronicities, and the trust required to listen and eventually follow the call. With courage comes the unfolding of magic, connection to true purpose and meaning, and the path to your destiny. Join me as we explore conversations with channelers, teachers, rebels, scientists, and more, covering topics about heart intelligence and coherence, the path of the rose, and how to more deeply connect to your own inner guidance. Be part of the movement, a return to the heart. Today, I am thrilled to have with us Marin Bach. Marin works in the realms of feminine soul initiation. She's a Magdalene rose priestess, a womb keeper, a wild holy woman, and a devotee of the feminine Christ path. She is also the creatrix of the Magdalene Rose Priestess Mastery Program, a 6-month mystery school training for other wild holy women who seek to reconnect with their rose lineage, reawaken their Sophia template, and reactivate their priestess codes in this lifetime. At the highest expression of her being, Marin seeks to be the embodiment of Divine Mother's love in action. Excited to have Marin with us today.
Thank you. It is such a heartfelt honor to be here and to share in this container with whomever it is that's going to be called to listen. I always believe that things happen at this level by divine appointment, and that there's something that we're all meant to sort of exchange in this moment, even though I get the honor of being the one that's interviewed and you get the honor of being the one that's holding the space. Like, how beautiful that we can all share a moment in the quantum field with whomever is meant to join us today and amplify whatever it is that's here. Yeah. So thank you, my dear sister. Thank you for the work that you do, the spaces that you're holding. To give you a little bit of an introduction, my full name is Marin Bach-Antonson, and I am a Magdalene Rose Priestess of the Rose lineage. And I have come to that knowing and that understanding through a series of blooming experiences in my life. The very first one that started right after a tragedy, actually, which is interesting that sometimes being cracked open in our life, that sort of metaphor that the crack lets the light in. That was my experience. And I'm going to share something vulnerable in that when I was 24 years old, my brother, dear brother, committed suicide. It was a shock to our entire family. He was an athlete and a football player, a super popular, great looking kid. And it literally cracked me open. And in the cracking open, it actually gave me permission to get off of the template of the matrix. And what I mean by that is I had been conditioned up to that point that I was to go to college, get a job, follow a career path. And I was diligently sort of moving along on that. And that gave me permission to follow my inner voice, do as I wanted, be a little bit of a rebel for a little while. And my heart brought me to different ashrams and different places where spiritual awakening was happening, and conversations were happening that I had never been exposed to before. And the day that truly changed my life, I was volunteering at the New York Open Center. I had been invited to an autumn equinox ceremony. I had no idea what that was. I didn't even know the word equinox at that point. I just knew I loved fall on the East Coast where I lived. And I went to this celebration, and when I walked into the room, something happened to me. I walked in and there was a group of women sitting on the floor. They were around a central altar. They were dressed in their goddess best. And when I hit the doorway, it was as if my biology, my physiology, I remembered this configuration of women and ceremony and sisterhood and circle, and a pinging, like an explosion went off in my body. And I do believe what I know now, that the codes, the priestess codes that I carry, were being activated that night. And I went right up. I was 25 years old. I had just, been through this tragedy. So I had a confidence and a sort of a boldness to me that I hadn't ever had before. And I went right up to the facilitator, who was an embodied priestess. And I said, I have to do what you do. And she took a liking to me and my clarity. And she took me on as her apprentice for 2 years. And that was the beginning of being re-womaned and accepting my connection as a daughter of the goddess. And
Wow, that
changed my life.
sounds amazing. I'm going to pause you right there, and I'm sure some of the listeners are like, well, what does a 2-year apprenticeship with a priestess look like, and what does it mean to remember your priestess and embody your goddess, and what does that look like, and how is that possible and attainable for us? Because we're all feeling that rise in the divine feminine within our hearts, but what did your schooling teach you?
Yeah. So for the women that are holding space for these levels of mystery school containers, being immersed in that was what was so potent. And the curriculum was about learning and reattuning to the cycles of nature, the rhythms of the moon, as they're connected to the rhythms of our body. I got to have a new reframe about my own body and the body temple. And I got to learn about the sacredness of my blood. One interesting thing that your listeners may get a kick out of is that I know a woman who can see frequency. And one of the things, she can see auric field, she can see frequency. When she holds menstrual blood in her hand, she sees it as liquid gold. It actually vibrates that high. So I got to be in new relationship with my menstrual blood. And I got to be in new relationship with this force of intelligence with a feminine face. And once I began to feel it as feminine, then I was able to see myself in it. And that began to awaken the truth within me as a divine being. And it wasn't so much about the actual curriculum, but it was being exposed to an energetic template and an energetic field, and being around women and attuning to the frequency of sisterhood and what that felt like and what was possible between women. Up to that point, I had found intimacy, like many women do, by gossip or being in relationship with women in a way that wasn't at the highest vibration. And what this container gave me was this brand new template for how to be in my vulnerability, how to speak my truth, how to find myself in the stories of other women, and how to bond with women through this connection of ancient sisterhood. And that just totally changed my life. I am so blessed that I had a vision of doing that work back then, and I'm so incredibly grateful that the work that I do now is that work and more, and that I get to be abundant in the world and make this terrific salary as a priestess. Sometimes when I go to weddings and people ask, just very mainstream things, what do you do? I used to sort of dance around it. Oh, I'm a women's empowerment coach. Oh, I do work with women. I do healing work. But now I just stand in my heart. I'm a priestess. And I just let that land.
I love it. And at the end, I'm going to open space for you to share all that you're offering right now. But what, in terms of the upcoming programs and whatnot, but for now, what is it that you do right now? In terms of, in what way do you hold space? How do you support women in their path to connecting with their own divine feminine? And maybe you can talk more about the rose lineage, because
clearly work with the rose, and the rose is just blossoming out of your heart. I can feel it.
Thank you. At the deepest level of my work at this point, Mary Magdalene came to me in 2014, and that up-leveled my entire work. So the work that I do now at this point is I hold a very high feminine frequency through my offerings, through my sister circles, through the mystery school initiation programs. That is the Magdalene Rose frequency. When women come in, interface with that frequency, it opens and unlocks the library of wisdom that they've developed over lifetimes, that they've come in at this pivotal moment on earth during the earth transition. And I like to say that I gather the midwives of the new earth so that we can fortify ourselves to get out there and truly hold a tone, hold a harmonic. This is what Magdalene has shown me, that when we open the rose of our heart, it's as if there is a harmonic that begins to flow from us. And it will awaken and up level, and almost like Pied Pipers, like it will draw other people to that harmonic, because the harmonic is so pure and so strong. It is the pure harmonic of Mother's love, and it will be the thing that allows us to birth the new earth, that opens the portals for everybody to find their way who choose it into the new frequency of the new paradigm of the new earth.
Oh, wow. That is like so beautifully said. And I know there's just more and more and more people waking up to this every day. So this work is more than necessary right now. And people are just finding their ways to you or to the right person to support them in unlocking that. And I know in the questionnaire that I sent you earlier, there was this question, you mentioned that you wanted to share the three pivotal pieces of the divine feminine path. Maybe you can touch on those right now, because I'm sure you probably go into that in your containers.
Yes, I like to call this the foundation of the feminine, that if women can hold these three pillars, they are beginning to readjust and reattune the whole paradigm, because we've grown up conditioned to participate in a very patriarchal paradigm. It's a distorted masculine paradigm that keeps us busy, that keeps us moving, that keeps us striving to prove our worth in the world, to be a success, to have more and more and more. And the first foundation of the feminine, the first pillar of the feminine foundation of that new paradigm is the art of allowing. Divine Mother's heart is an unconditional heart. It's a heart that says, I accept you exactly as you are. So the very first thing that we need to do when we wake up to this paradigm is not make the other wrong, is not try to fix anything, but rather to be with it in our full presence and our full rose heart and say, I allow and I accept what has been. I allow and I accept who I am. And what that does is it completely softens and dissolves, eradicates and neutralizes every bit of resistance. So now you're in touch with your power. You're fully in touch with your power. And it's from that place that you can make miraculous transformations, shifts, quantum leaps, and you can do alchemy. But that's the piece. We're so conditioned to fix, to be better, to be more, to be different, to believe we're not enough. We're obsessed with that. So the art of softening, leaning to the back of the body, the front of your body. I was recently, it was recently revealed to me. The front of your body is electric. It's where your masculine energy is. It's where most of us are all the time in our positioning. The back of your body is the magnetic. It's the receptive. It's the leaning back into the arms and heart of the mother. It's the feminine. So even just that subtle shift, I'm going to just come into the back of my body and allow this to be as it is. That's the first pillar. And that in and of itself is just such a huge paradigm shift. The second foundational piece is the art of attunement. It's understanding that your body is like an instrument. I think of it like a guitar. It's like playing chords. Your atoms hold a particular frequency of light. The more that you focus on ascended masters, let's say, that you're connected to, or the symbology of the rose, when you put your focus on that and you know how to attune, feel your way into that, then you're beginning to prepare your physical body to hold higher and higher levels of love, higher and higher levels of frequency. And you begin to liberate your own essence that you came here to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing. It's the art of attunement. So it's the art of allowing, the art of attunement. The third one, there's so many, but the third one is beauty.
Mm.
It's surrounding yourself. Your inner feminine, beauty is food for her.
Mm-hmm.
She loves beautiful things. When I started to treat myself to roses every week, it was such an act of not just self-love and self-care, but it was such an act of honoring my inner feminine. So I highly recommend create beautiful spaces. Let your goddess have an altar in your house. Adorn yourself. Look for beauty. Be beauty. Surround yourself with beauty. Beauty is the essence of the feminine. So those are the three right there. And that really helps to build the musculature of that goddess within. It kind of stirs her awake, expands her within you, and gets you off of those traps of constant, like, going for the carrot that we're sort of conditioned and taught to constantly be following.
Totally. That's so beautiful. And again, so eloquently said and precise. I resonate a lot with that. And it's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And something that just came up while you're saying that, in the beauty and in the honoring and adorning ourselves, you had referred to the moon blood and the ritual you had kind of like learned in your Priestess Mystery School. And I know a lot of women out there are starting to become, people are starting to talk about it. There's Instagram photos of women with their blood on their face. And it's like, okay, I get it. This is something that could be important in a way. And like, I would love to hear if you have any rituals with your moon blood that we can share out to people, and like start cultivating that self-love, that reclamation of the divine feminine within ourselves. So if you have any rituals, would love to hear.
Absolutely. The first is just a holy reframe to understand that your blood is so beautiful, so powerful. It's mineral rich. It has stem cells in it that when it is the lining of your uterus, it's going to grow that baby. It is life force. It is life giving. So one of the very most simplest things, and it's become very common, that you can ritually do is you can mix your blood with some water and give it to your plants. Because it will expand life. Now, I will share with you that if you really get into this and you really begin to align with it, you can even begin. There are women out there, blood witches, that are baking with their blood. You can mix your blood with almond milk and you can bake with it. It's just minerals and richness and goodness. And I know some people might, oh my God, that's a little far out and too much. But sometimes just to push and stretch the paradigm helps to open the paradigm. So that's why I share it. There is a prophecy that says, when the women return their blood to the earth, the new earth is upon us. I think it's a Hopi prophecy. Yeah,
I love
when
that.
the women begin to return their blood to the earth. So one of the things that I do here in Northern California, I have redwoods all around my property. I take my blood out in a chalice each month. I stand in the fairy ring of the redwood trees. You could do this even on the lawn in your backyard. And I specifically bless the blood with my energy, and then I give it back to Mother Earth and I say, thank you. Thank you. May this give you life. May it expand your own life force. Any healing that you need, may this blood be part of giving you sustenance. And thank you for all the sustenance that you offer and you give to us. Another small little thing that you can do, it's a secret little thing, but it's wonderful. You can just put a finger on your blood or in your yoni, get a little dip, and you can put it right behind your ears, so that, or right on your navel, right at that power point center, so that you bless and anoint yourself. You anoint yourself as goddess. You anoint yourself as a woman who is remembering and reclaiming her sacred blood. Because isn't it interesting, Bianca, that something like blood, something like birth, these things have been caught in reversal codes. We've been taught to distort them and to think that they are disempowering, painful. We are victims of it, something we have to deal with, when in fact, the opposite is true. Our blood is what gives us our power. Our birth experiences they put us directly in touch with our divinity. So these are small little ways, not only to honor your blood, but to take back that power from those reversal codes that they are stuck in.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm sure, like, highly suggest everyone to start, just experimenting with it. Because just in the process of doing it, I know for myself, even, it's like our mind can't really comprehend, but deep down, when we engage in these rituals, we are awakened. That within us is awakened. It's such a subtle level, but it's profound. So thank you for sharing that. I love to share little tips that are tangible so that people can start like stepping into their priestess. Because priestess power all the way, priestess within the women and the men as well. So yeah, thank you so much, and would love to transition into, oh my gosh, so many things. It's like I need to just get through all of it, but Divine will support us in this. Your connection with Mary Magdalene and what you call the Magdalene phenomenon that is happening on that planet right now. I would love to just, what is that? Why are people starting to feel her and connected to her? Maybe would love to hear what you have to say about that.
Sure, absolutely. I'll tell you, if I may, I'll tell you my quick story about how Mary Magdalene came to me, because I find that sometimes stories touch the heart differently than just concepts and words do. And sometimes when a story and the vibration of a story, particularly a Magdalene story, if it gets to your heart, oftentimes it's through the story that she wants to connect with you. So I'll share this for whomever it's meant to be heard by. Back in 2014, I attended a retreat, and I'm going to just say that I went to this retreat because there was such an incredible force within me that said, you have to be there. And I learned from this experience that when you get that, oh, sisters, follow it. Follow it. Move mountains if you have to. Borrow money. It doesn't matter. Do it, because there's something in that for you. So often the head will talk us out of these things. On this particular retreat, I had to fly my mother-in-law in. I had little kids at the time. My husband thought I was crazy. He was mad I was spending the money. Nothing stopped me, though. I went. And the irony is, it was a 5-day retreat. On day 4, I was still sitting there saying, why am I here? What am I getting from this? I have no idea. I spent all this money. Oh my God, why am I here? Because I wasn't fully resonating. And then the night of day 4 came, and the woman that was leading the retreat, she was amazing. Her name was Barbara Marks Hubbard, and she has since passed, but she's a famous author and a famous visionary. And she had told us that it came through to her that stories were very important, and that if you look at tribal culture, tribes pass down stories as a way to teach, as a way to expand their youth into their heart. And that in the Western world, we really don't have stories except for the Bible. And if you look at the Bible in the way that it's written, it can be very disempowering for women. And so she was called to sit in meditation and rewrite the Bible. And she did. She took stories and she rewrote them. And she was presenting them to our group for the very first time. She never shared them with the world. She actually never, even before she died, they were not made public. And there was a group of us that decided that we wanted to read those stories. She was going to stage them. I actually was not part of that group that wanted to read the stories. I just wanted to listen to them. Right before they were about to go on, the woman that was supposed to read the part of Mary Magdalene got sick and she wasn't there. So they rushed over to me. I have no idea to this day. I don't know why. They rushed over to me and said, Marin, will you read the Mary Magdalene part? And I thought, okay, sure. I grabbed it. I'd never looked at it before. When my moment came, I will never forget the prompt of the line right before I came on with her voice was, Yeshua, Jesus, in the way that she rewrote it, said, my beloved has been silenced for lifetimes, and now she speaks. And I, right, chills, and I read this paragraph that Barbara had written that had come through her and had the honor of bringing it to life for the first time. And I read it out loud, and I'm a trained actress, so I sort of put that feeling behind it. And when I looked up, so many women in the room had tears in their eyes, and I could feel that there was something that was just moving through. And I, said goodbye to everybody that night, and I felt so glad for that opportunity. I didn't think much of it. I got in the car, and I'm driving home on these back roads in Northern California. It was late at night, and literally there was a force that came into the car, that came into my presence, even though I was driving. I literally had to pull over to the side of I'm getting so many chills as I'm retelling this story. I had to pull over to the side of the road because it was so strong. And I heard a voice that said, I have been waiting to connect with you. And I'm so glad that now is the time. And the best way that I can describe this is that it just felt like a love that permeated my bone marrow, that permeated my cellular structure. I had never in my life felt anything like this before. And I just knew that it was her. Sometimes you don't know, but you know. Your heart knows, and nobody can talk you out of it. I get emotional when I talk about it now because I can almost there's a little whisper of feeling that I can still tune into from that moment. It was so overwhelming. I just sobbed and sobbed. I mean, when I say sobbed, I mean, I was snotting and schnutzing all over the car. It was that level of sobbing. It just was the sobbing that kind of cleansed you and cracked you open and brought you to this new place within yourself because it was just like a thunder that just kind of got you to the next place. So that was my story of how Magdalene came to me. And I know she comes sometimes in very subtle ways for people. She came to me with a big boom. What I believe about the Magdalene phenomenon is this. I do believe, of course, that Mary Magdalene was a
I'm
person.
still feeling your story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I just, yeah, thank you. Really, thank you. I could feel you, and what a beautiful initiation. And thank you for making yourself available for that moment. And clearly it has just oozed out of your heart ever since. And I'm just super grateful, and thank you for taking us there.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you said it so perfectly. And I really just want to bring this moment back in again, making ourselves available. When we get those intuitive hits about something that we're supposed to do or participate in, or a person we're supposed to meet, or a place we're meant to go, don't let anything stop you, because it wasn't the retreat or the curriculum of the retreat, but it was that moment that gave me the opportunity to create a portal, a doorway to connect with her, right? So that's why I got the intuitive hit to go there. So I do believe, of course, that Mary Magdalene was a phenomenal, wild woman that walked the earth. Twin flame of Yeshua, priestess of the highest order. I also believe that she is a template, that she is a code, that there is a coding that was created with her that as she is resurrecting, Yeshua resurrected on, after the cross, she is now being resurrected in the hearts and minds of women. As we feel into her frequency, we remember the template of the feminine Christ that we carry within us. So the feminine, the Divine Mother, the feminine Christ codes are returning because our earth is remembering and coming back to balance of masculine and feminine. And Magdalene is helping us to find our way through the coding that she is, through the frequency, through the harmonic, through the tone that she carries. We hear it. Mm-hmm. And then those of us are meant to download Magdalene, to open our own inner Magdalene, to walk as Magdalenes again on earth. I'll tell you that there's another prophecy. It's a Cathar prophecy. The Cathars, I won't go into the whole story, but there was this moment where they knew they were going to be tortured if they didn't renounce their faith. And they didn't want to renounce their faith. And they had a vision, they had a group vision that Magdalene would return, Sophia would return, but she wouldn't return as one, she would return as many. Magdalene would return as many. And apparently the timing of all that, I think it was like 700 years ago that they ran into the fires at Montesegura and ecstatically allowed themselves to be burned. I mean, there's a whole story about it because they knew that this wasn't the end. And they predicted it would be something like 700 years. And we're in that time right now that they predicted. We are it right now. So I do believe that as we resurrect the Magdalene within us, very much like she's guiding us, we will guide others. And it's just the rose that spirals open and spirals open and spirals open, and the frequency is felt even more and more and more. So that's what I believe is the Magdalene phenomenon.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. I'm just like so in awe the way you explain things. It's resonating really deeply. And for listeners out there, I'm sure some of them, many of them, have probably been touched by some sort of awakening at some point, or have had some sort of voice within their heart, just whispering or screaming, "Hello, remember me." Is there any sort of advice, or maybe even drawing from your own story, like when that happened in the car, or even like the stories before that prepared you, like how sometimes it's hard to take action, a lot of things need to be rearranged in your life, and what's the best way to start navigating listening to your heart?
This is such a great question. Two things come to mind. Two things come to heart. The first is to understand and to know there's always going to be doubt. There's always going to be doubt. And we go back to the first feminine pillar of that foundation, which is allow it. Allow the doubt to be what it is. Don't give it any energy. Don't feed it any of your power. Just allow it. And go to your heart. And the most important thing, I think, is to really get really disciplined and dedicated to making space for silence and stillness. Like I said before, everything in the world is going to pull you into reasons that you don't have time for that. There is a rhythm to the world that is unnatural, that's going to always keep you busy and always keep you believing that there's more to do. And we have to get so centered and so devoted. I would say to become a devotee to the heart is something that you can do in ceremony, that you can go out and anchor into the earth, and you can say, I am hereby choosing to be a devotee of this path, a devotee of the heart. And that in and of itself does something to your energy. It gives you a strength and a sustenance to be able to hold yourself and anchor yourself in the midst of this crazy vibration and ocean and chaos that we live in the third dimension. Once you begin to make silence and space, then there's a question that you can begin to play with and ask. It's a very simple question, and it is, higher self, divine heart, what would you have me know today? And every day, just sit with that and just write and let your heart pour out messages. And at first, the heart's going to say things like, you're so beautiful, I love you, you're doing great. And oftentimes you can write that off and say, oh, that's just me. That's just me. And yes, it is you. And you're going to doubt that because it's not some phenomenal information that comes from elsewhere. But that's the whole point. It is you. It's going to be familiar. Let it speak. Let it keep speaking. There will come a time when it opens and it will give you more. And you'll begin to be really moved by what's coming through. At least that's been my experience. Really moved by what's coming through. And you'll know that it is of the higher realms and the higher self. Now I forgot the other piece of it. I'm sure it'll come back, but
Thank you. That's so beautiful. Those are really, really amazing tips, to take time every day in silence, journal, ask your heart what your heart wants to speak to you. I mean, thank you. It's so simple, but it's just about making it a priority, right? And carving out the time for you to come into communion with you.
When you make a choice, when you make a holy choice, Earth moves to conspire to meet you at that level of choice. It can't be a should. So many people come to morning practice. I should do that. I should do that. I should do that. Should has a vibration that's not sustainable. It's always going to be frail and fragile, and you're not going to. But when you make a choice, yes, I am following this path. Yes, I will be connected to my heart. Yes, I shall follow this calling that is so clearly calling me. And you ceremonialize that, and you use the power to ritualize that or create your own personal rite of passage. You literally move mountains with that level of energy. I do remember the second thing I was going to say. Get yourself into containers. Sometimes when we are in a vacuum unto ourselves, it's so easy to doubt ourselves. When you get yourselves into a sister circle, for example, or a soul tribe, and you have people that are mirroring you to you, and you say, I am love, I am light, I am the rose, and your sister stands with you and she looks you in the eye and she says, you are that, you are. It does something, and it helps you anchor it in. And they say that we are the compilation of the people that we spend the most time with. So to get yourselves into a container, a program, a festival, a community, that you get to be around people that are holding the vibration that you want to be at, then it just lifts you up. But it doesn't just lift you, it anchors it inside of you. I would say that's the other thing. And lastly, my higher self just gave me this practice the other day. She said, practice heart smiling. Say to your heart, heart, I love you. And then your heart begins to open. Yeah, it's the same thing for the womb. It's the same thing for the womb. These feminine portals in our body, they are feminine. Okay, so let's take the yoni, for example. If you've been with a partner that really knows how to approach your yoni with gentleness and reverence and respect, what's going to happen? Your yoni is going to open. It's going to reveal herself. It's the same thing. When you treat your heart with respect, when you treat your womb with respect and reverence, these feminine portals like the rose, they reveal themselves to you. They open to you. And their wisdom that they behold begins to be accessible. So hands on the heart, heart, I love you. And just smile and let your heart smile back at you. That builds a relationship. It builds a connection. And then the heart begins to lead the way in a way that becomes very clear and very followable.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. And I'm really inspired to do something at the end of this. So I'm going to save it because I have a couple more questions. And one pertains to the rose, actually. I'd love for you to like express more, share more of your insights about what is the rose lineage, what is the rose path, why is the rose such a portal?
Mm. There's a lot of women holding a lot of wisdom around this. And I do believe that each of us may have a petal of this. And when you put the petals together, it reveals the enormity of it. So all I can give you is my petal. And I'll give that with just love and reverence. And that is the rose for me is a code. It's a symbol that I believe was encoded, that women, men, beings, souls came and they encoded a particular frequency into this symbology that was the rose, knowing that when we interfaced with it again, it would unlock that frequency within us. From my experience, the frequency of the rose is the most pure, pristine, infinite, unconditional mother love. It's the mitochondrial DNA connection that leads us back to the purity of Mother's heart as our own heart. Isn't it interesting that we just knew to give roses for Valentine's Day and roses for weddings? It's like we already have this connection between roses and love. It's in the collective consciousness. And I know that when I hold a rose at my heart, and I just breathe and allow my heart to become the holy rose that it is, with a rose at my heart, I just get these, I can get in these states of bliss and expansion and like an exquisite softness that I feel almost like I'm being transported into Mother's womb of just the most highest holy temples of nurturing, where I am just loved and accepted exactly as I am. And I know that that transmission of that level of vibration and energy, that gift, if my heart can give that to another person, I believe that holy miracles can happen, because every person on earth who is hurting, who is making decisions that you can call violent or whatever, we're all just craving to be loved and accepted as we are. And that's the power of Mother's medicine. So I think that the rose helps us to tune in and turn on our ability to be emissaries of that level of medicine, of that level of frequency. And that's the frequency that's going to heal the hearts of the world.
Ooh,
That's my piece
wow.
with it.
Thank you so much. I'm just, thrilled. So many beautiful rose bombs.
Rose bombs, I love that.
It's amazing. And is there a way you can suggest people to like how they can start activating themselves if they maybe bought a rose and did something with that, just hold it by the heart, like just so that people could start taking practical steps? I'm sure people are like, hey, I want to be activated. I'm ready. I'm in, like, what can I do?
Yes, just what you said. The rose on the heart, lie down, put a rose, like actually lie in bed with a rose on your body. Let the stem go down to the womb so that you're connecting womb and heart and opening your heart womb. Surrounding yourself with roses, with imagery of roses, like I have here in my temple. Symbols are the language of the subconscious and the psyche. Imagery speaks to the soul. It's not words, it's imagery and color and shapes and symbols. So when we surround ourselves with that, then it unlocks. In the yogic tradition, Sri Yantra is the yantra that puts you in touch with Mother's womb, with just like the life force energy. And if you've ever looked at the Sri Yantra, it sort of looks like the rose. You can see similarities of all those triangles in the middle that then spiral out into it's exactly like the rose. So yogic tradition tells us that just interfacing with these yantras opens something up for us. It's the same thing with the rose. that's why I have this big, beautiful painting of the rose, because I'll lie in bed and I'll just look at it. And I know that it's the same thing like working with a yantra. So, and also just give yourself the gift of buying live roses as much as you can. Yeah, having that frequency in your home, and the scent also does something, I think, to us. The aroma therapy of roses tunes us back into the knowing of what we remember before the fall.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
And rose oil too. Rose oil on the heart. Yeah, it's expensive, but boy, it's such a self-love gift. Just a little drop on the heart. Ooh, that is really, really powerful. Rose oil. Rosa Mystica. There's an incredible, I'm going to give a shout out to her. There's an incredible woman that makes pure Rosa Mystica oil. I have never in my life interfaced with an oil that's been so powerful. Her name is Diana Dubrow, and her website, her temple is called emeraldtemple.com, and you could buy the oil from her temple.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's funny when you said yantra, when people are like, what is the work with the rose? I'm like, the rose is a yantra. It literally shifts consciousness just by its presence. So it's a great, but I had just used the word yantra to refer it to something that shifts consciousness. I'd never looked at the Sri Ranta and been like, this is a rose. So that is mind blowing right now. So thank you for connecting those dots. All right. And would love to move into your plant medicine experience, because I'm personally super interested in hearing the story. I haven't heard it yet. And for me, the divine feminine really in its most profound way was awoken in a plant medicine ceremony. So I'm very curious to hear your story.
Yeah. I had always been very resistant to plant medicines because they felt very out of control for me. And, you're not sure what's going to happen. But I got invited to a ceremony where the shamans would muscle test so that your body would guide you as to what was in the highest and best. The plant medicine that I took was a proprietary blend of plants. But what happened for me was I went into a bliss state where for hours the best way I can describe it is my heart was wide open, totally wide open. There was no armoring, no heart walls, no protective energy around my heart. And what I felt was my breath, but almost like an energy. I felt life breathing. And there were waves that came in, waves that went out. And I realized that God, at her very essence, is the breath. That she is this energy that comes in and goes out, and comes in and goes out. And then what came to me during the journey was everything is always singing the name of God. Spring, summer, winter, fall. Expansion of the womb, contraction of the womb when we birth our babies. In breath, out breath. Solar time, moon time. Even the sun itself, its fission and fusion, it draws itself together only to explode out into light again. These are the rhythms of the divine intelligence that is the life force, that is God, Goddess. And she is right in our body every moment of every day with our breath. Our breath is the most powerful, beautiful, brilliant technology embedded in this holy temple that is our body, that if we just close our eyes, at this point it's become almost like a platitude, but we have to break through that. If we just close our eyes, go deep into our breath, listen to our breathing, and experience ourselves breathing, instantaneously we're brought into the present moment. Instantaneously we're brought into the presence of God herself in us. So that's what I was shown in my medicine journey. And my life has just never been the same, because I realized she's right here all the time. There's no going out there. I am her. She's right there inside of me.
Thank you
the breath,
so much. It's so beautiful. The breath, the sacred breath.
sacred breath,
And
everything.
it transitions so beautifully into kind of the last piece that I wanted to request of you if you're open for it. I remember last time we talked on the phone last year, the way you just opened up kind of the portal of our conversation even was just so sweet and sacred. And perhaps if you're up to it, you want to just guide the group through a breath or through whatever is coming through you right now, a few minutes just to feel your medicine or whatever medicine is coming through you, through the God that you are, and to the gods listening out there.
What a beautiful invitation. Thank you, sister. I would love to. I'm going to invite everybody who's listening to place their hand on their heart and to float our eyes closed, which allows us access to those inner realms within us. And to just notice what we see when we close our eyes. We see this infinite blackness. And the blackness that is not cold or void, but the blackness that is velvet and soft and exquisite with possibility. A blackness that mirrors the cosmic womb of our Great Mother. Let us dissolve, detach, soften into this blackness, knowing that we are held with infinite grace by the Holy Mother. And I invite you to lean back and really allow yourself to receive her holding, to receive her nurturing, to receive all of the sacred sustenance that she wishes to anoint you with in this holy moment. We invoke and we summon the light. We invite our spirit guides, our soul family, our angels, the avatars, any ascended masters that we're connected to, that we walk with and work with. We invite them here in this moment to hold and anchor this container that we are creating. We allow ourselves to spiral into this moment even deeper. Letting yourself just let go in the silence. Let go. Allow yourself to be loved. Divine Mother comes through. She wants you to speak this line to yourself in the holy sacred silence of your own heart. I allow myself to be exactly as I am in this moment. I allow all of myself to be here and now. And in that allowing, you open your own heart to yourself, and she can work through you as you. You have a human operating system, you have a higher self operating system. Your human being needs to be held, needs to be nurtured, needs to be told and reminded that it's all okay, that you're safe. Often we look outside of ourselves for that, but it's all right here. It's all inside of you. She is inside of you. Just feel her in this moment. And then we'll amplify that by imagining the holy Christed holographic rose in the heart and allowing it to open petal by petal, unfurling and expanding in your beautiful heart so that Divine Mother is expressing her song, her energy, her ecstasy through your precious innocent, ecstatic heart. And then we'll call in all of the sisters that are with us in the quantum field in this moment that are listening. Doesn't matter when you're listening, we all gather here, imagining that we are under a full moon on a sacred field with a gorgeous blanket of stars. And we take each other's hands, look into each other's eyes, really anchor and amplify this moment and say to each other, sisters, I see you. I honor you. I remember you. I am here with you. And imagine that you can feel those two hands on your hands as you hold and we braid this beautiful sister energy, and we create this wise web of women in this moment, and just feel the sustenance of that and really breathe it in. Let it anchor this moment for you. When two or more gather, we amplify and expand the energy. That is the power of sisterhood. So really feel those connections, even though you don't even know who you're connecting with. Know that they are souls on the path. They are rose souls right with you. And so it is that we are blessed by this holy moment together, and we remember more of who we are in each other's presence. Thank you, and blessed be.
Thank you so much. Ooh, what a transmission, really. Thank you. And I'm in myself a bit lost for words, but I hope I'm sure that whoever is tuning into this right now has had an experience, and it's all within us, right? And that's it. We just have to close our eyes and connect to the breath of God and let it breathe through us. And so thank you, Marin, so much for that gift.
Yeah, just open your rose heart to yourself. And there she is. And there she is.
Thank you so much, Marin, for that beautiful gift. It has been received by myself, and I'm sure many. I'm just glancing at the time, and we are coming to an end. Before we end, I would love for you to share with everybody how people can find you, what's coming up for you, how can people bathe in your medicine more and come into Priestess School with you.
Very easily findable. It's just priestessrising.com. That's my website. That's my home base. You can look me up on social media using my name, Marin Bach-Antonson, or Priestess Rising. Those two key code words, you'll always be able to find me. The invitation that I have right now is at the beginning of the year, it was absolutely clearly guided. This is a must. This is your destiny. This is by divine appointment that you are to open the doors to the Magdalene Rose Priestess Mastery School. And so it is that we are launching that on the spring equinox at that time of rebirth and renewal. It is a container. It is a portal. It is a mystery school. It is a mastery level program for women that are truly knowing that they are meant to be in service to the divine feminine as keepers of the rose frequencies and emissaries of the divine mother at this time. And the program is just going to unlock the codes within you. It's going to give you access to your own inner library of wisdom so that you can truly be put in touch with the skills and the sacred knowing that you came here to share at this time. Being in sisterhood at this level is palpable and powerful, and it helps us to anchor in even more of that confidence and that sustenance so we can go out into the world where all of our fears are going to be triggered. But when you have that home base, when you have that anchor, when you have that school that's at your back and that sisterhood that's holding you, then you become a force to be reckoned with. So the invitation is, if you're feeling the call, this is a heartfelt invite to connect with me in that rose temple for the Magdalene Rose Priestess Mastery Level Program. It would be an absolute honor to welcome in any divine soul that was destined to be part of our sisterhood. It's a 6-month program, and you can find information on my website.
Marin, thank you so much. I'm going to include the website link at the bottom of the video. If anybody is deeply resonating with this or even just interested to learn more, you can connect with Marin about it. It's going to be life-changing. I already know that.
Thank you, my sister.
So Marin, thank you so much again for making the space and time for being here with us today and for sharing your beautiful magic, your beautiful essence. I really appreciate it. And I hope it's just the first of many, because I have still a list of questions for you. And I'm just, deeply in awe of how eloquently you answer everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the honor. And I always like to end, we say in our mystery school, completion with goddess glitter. So goddess glitter upon everybody who's listening, goddess glitter upon you, goddess glitter upon everything on earth. Thank you for the honor, my dear sister. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.